Well, Sharon, thank you for that warm welcome. Today we're going to talk about how we're feeling about AI. We've had some conversations today, like some people are afraid, some people are excited. And I'll talk a little bit about why. We'll be able to unpack that. And then I'm going to talk about another kind of AI, which is affective intelligence, which is intelligence about emotions and why that's important and kind of how it's played out here. So first, we've done a series of micro-surveys over the last few days. Hopefully a few of you participated. So the participants coming in didn't have very much experience with AI, right? You see everybody's kind of down in the newbie. We have a tiny number of experts up here in the group. So it's pretty good. I hope these are the speakers and the rest of us are all attending here, right? So you can kind of see where the crowd is with AI today, at least before this conference, right? So we asked them about how excited or concerned they are, and they're not the only ones, but other surveys have shown about half the people are equally excited and concerned. Fortunately, we have a bunch of technologists here. They're even more excited. They're not worried about anything, right? Whatever the government's going to say, they're probably going to try to ignore, right? But clearly, some people are worried, and that's fair. And so why are people feeling this way? Well, before I dig into the details, the last one is, and this was after people had seen the first two surveys, which showed a number of solutions, people became more confident in being able to identify their own use case because they had seen this list that other people had contributed, right? So a number of successful projects that people contributed, that these are participants in the summit that contributed all of these ideas. So these are the things that people are actually seeing deployed successfully with AI in the world, right? So that when we see those things, that helps build our confidence. So once we ask them again, we can see that they shifted up. Now there's nobody down here in the not confident. So we've kind of, this summit has shifted people's confidence in the future of being able to use AI in their own business. And we can see that here. We also recognize, though, that there's a lot to learn and a lot of problems to be avoided, pitfalls to be avoided. Here's some pretty these are famous failures mostly, although some of these have been contributed. Like this one is like people just think it's too expensive, right? But now we've got open source models. It's getting cheaper and easier, and we're going to see a lot more of that. What won't change, though, is the fact that people will still be excited and fearful. And so we have to be careful about working with people. One of my good friends said, people are funky, right? We're driven by emotions, right? So we need to assess feelings. But if you do a survey and ask somebody about their feelings, they're going to give you honest answers for about a minute, and then they're going to start giving you what they think you want to hear, right? So you can't talk to them very long. They're really short of attention, right? So you have to get this stuff quickly and make them understand why this is important to them, right? And once you can identify those things, then they'll be engaged about talking about your thing, or at least getting afraid of it, right? As soon as they start learning about it, and I love Nate's mention about the 3 meetings about it. I think the 3 meetings about it are absolutely phenomenal. I'm just going to take a little digression here because I love it so much. Because in the first meeting about it, it really is just an emotional response to your idea. And usually it's just the fear. Oh, we can never do that, right? And this will never work. And you get all that in the first meeting. But if you can design the second meeting to be like, okay, I know it's scary. Bring all your issues, dude. Bring them. We want to hear them, right? And bring all the benefits and let's put them up. And that's the second meeting, is we really get to do the analysis. And the third meeting is now everybody has had a chance to think about it and make a cohesive decision together. So 3 meetings takes a lot of the fear and the emotions out of the decisions. So, but in any case, we need to do this affective intelligence gather, right? We need to know how people are feeling. So we want them to be able to stay in control. Other people talked about giving people control makes them much more comfortable. When it's complicated, they're not sure, help structure the conversation, right? And we've talked about this, and there's all kinds of design processes. And I even got some good new ideas from Skip's great design workshop. And the key thing is you have to remember there's kind of two dimensions in all of our emotions. There's the resistance, like, oh, I'm scared of that. It's not going to work, whatever. And there's the excitement. Oh, I want that something new, something shiny. And we're constantly battling in our own heads about which one of these is more important or is the priority. And in fact is we need to address both if we're going to expect people to act. And the DEI talk that Elaine just did here was great, helping understand how to create psychological safety, let people bring their ideas and disagree without risk, without fear of losing their pay. So where this all comes from is we're really constantly enrolling people in the next thing, right? Sales is enrolling people in buying from us, right? Recruiting is enrolling people in working for us. And so there's this concept of enrollment that really is critical to getting people to act. And it helps them to overcome or build their confidence, overcome their concerns, and believe in the future enough to let them act. And the platform that we did the survey on has been used for a bunch of other things, including we've heard a number of things about respironic sleep machines. We help enroll people to be like staying on the machine. It's kind of uncomfortable. You don't like wearing that thing. I feel great because you wore it the last 3 nights, but then you stop wearing it and the next week you're feeling bad again. And people don't connect those things very well. So helping to point out like what they should be thinking about. This is even more important in electing surgical procedures, right? Oh, you need surgery. Well, that's a scary thing, right? Well, guess what? If you don't get it, it's going to get worse and bad things will happen, right? So helping people understand, okay, this is something I need to deal with, but here's all this fear. We know it's there. We can help them overcome it. Dude, you're going to be in control. Here's the process. It's not that hard. Other people like you have gone through it, right? And building people's comfort to do these hard things, including in some cases to cease smoking. So that's a big one. It's really, this is kind of where the technology came from, is how do you get somebody to stop smoking? You can't even get people to admit honestly how much they smoke, right? And so this is where the momentary affect comes in, as people are honest for 1 minute, and then they're in their own head trying to talk to you. So if you can stay in that moment, you'll get much higher quality data about what people are really thinking. As soon as you put 10 questions there, the last 8 are all not quality data. So, all right, so actually if you've been doing the survey, there's a couple more coming. There'll be one on Friday, trying to get a little feedback on the experience here. And then I think we're gonna have another one in a month to find out like what ideas have actually come to fruition out of this summit and what have people been able to actually realize. So come back in a month and keep an eye out for your EmoAI emails over time. Okay, now that's all I have on AI, the emotions of AI. We can unpack it further and dive in, or we can talk about a little bit of a workshop and what could we enroll people in, understand their affective data, and create impact. So I would invite you guys to throw out ideas. Otherwise, I'll use Bob. Because I know what he's trying to do. Jeremy might have one. Well, they asked me for a workshop, and then they gave me a session. Now I have both. Well, I'm here to serve, right? What can I help you guys with? Bob, you want to enroll some medical device makers and data sharing platform? You don't really care how they feel. This is what you're telling us, right? Right? And, and I'm a trained engineer, right? I was computer science all the way. And only honestly by spending many years and wasting millions of dollars building stuff that nobody bought did I learn to not do that and ask them what they want first, right? And that's around when we started doing design thinking, right? And stop just making stuff up and ask people what they really need. Because they don't even know unless you ask them just right, and so it's really a trick. So we're able to kind of bake in some of that touchy-feely stuff to help people understand. All right, so why wouldn't they adopt a data system, right? They're afraid. Well, there's probably a long list of stuff they're afraid of. They're possessive. Oh, that's interesting, right? Got to let them stay in control, right? So, you can create a dialogue that's like, dude, this is your data. There's no question, right? You just make them comfortable right up front. But there's a lot of value in it. But we know there's problems, right? Hey, what problems do you see? What opportunities do you see? And we create the dialogue that lets them discover their own motivations and fears and overcome them. So in my experience, sales is the biggest enrollment, right? And getting people's attention is challenging. So remember what we talked about? Make it about them. Make sure. That's right. You want to walk with your grandkids. That's it. You want to get out of the chair. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we try to use it. It's, it's sort of like code. I mean, it's a no-code platform, but you're responsible to build it. Right. So we do it in an agency fashion to try to let the experts parse out what are these steps and how to keep it bi-directional. Right. Right? Yeah, every day, exactly. Right? And it's short though. Yeah. That's the most effective way. It turns out that these short little momentary experiences they're called learning experience platforms. It's the most effective way to teach anybody anything. Like the way humans learn is not to sit like this in a seminar and listen for hours. It's a hard thing. We're here for the social, right? And we'll learn something too, but of all the things you heard today, you're only going to remember a couple, right? Whereas, so if I'm trying to deliver all this content and get you to remember it, this is not the most effective fashion. But if it's important, I'm going to put it in these little experiences, come at you every day, remind you why it's important or where you are in the thought process to get through the steps, and why it's important to take the next step. Part of enrollment is to remember to enroll people at each step. It's sort of like you get the spam email that's so convincing, you click on it, but then the landing page is so boring or it takes so long to load, you bounce out, right? So you have to keep it good at every step, right? People lose interest really quickly, right? So designing something to stay engaging is the key trick. Lots of small steps. And you actually get much higher retention. You can teach hours of material over a course of a month or so with this technique and gain much higher retention over time. People also like learning that's timely and relevant. Like, oh, I'm about to go into the factory. Well, here comes my little thing. It says, oh, remember, the rule is you got to wear your helmet. Okay, well, that's fine. You just told me how to wear my helmet. Well, now you're asking me, like, are you committed to wearing your helmet today? I guess I should. If I hit yes, well, if I don't put on my helmet and I get hurt, boss is probably not going to be in trouble because I said I was going to wear it and I didn't, right? If I say no, maybe the door doesn't open. So helping people. Right, so here's your liability waiver, sign now, right? And I think that's timely and relevant is a really, really important aspect. So if you can find the right bite-sized piece that somebody cares about today, you're going to have very high engagement.
Imagine in healthcare behavior change, right? It's the teachable moment concept that we're talking about, right?
That's exactly right.
When they're
Exactly.
exhibiting a behavior or when they're making a decision, right? The CPAP, it's a decision, it's a behavior, right? It's a decision.
You've got to enroll them in putting it on every night. Every night.
Right. But the other part of it is it applies to any medical device, right? If you don't know anything,
Chronic, yeah. No, even the instant ones, because like the surgery, like there's only 2% of people that need that surgery. But if you can't find them, you can't have any impact. Right?
But like that's the reason for connected medical devices, right? You can see the behavior as it evolves. If you don't find out until they come back in after 3 months, you give them a CPAP or you give them a oxygen concentrator or a home dialysis machine, you don't find out for 2 weeks that they're only using it
Once a week. Yeah, right. Not going to work.
All of those opportunities.
Yep. So the second day, you need to design an assessment, right? Hey, how's it going? Right? Did you get this?
But it's even better if you can say on the second day, you started to see.
You're right. Exactly. Keep it personal. This is another, actually, I forgot to mention this, is reflecting people's own input back to them. Like, hey, like, I want to go walk with my grandkids. Okay, they put that in on Monday, but on Friday, they're not doing the thing. And you say, hey, you said you wanted to walk with your kids. It's like, oh, you were listening. Okay, all right. It really gets people's attention when you can reflect their own work. You're kind of holding them to account, and it makes people step up and behave better. I'm dying to figure out how to integrate AI with this. It's yeah, exactly. Well said. That I got them to upload the picture of the week before because they were so excited. Right? It's a waiver in there. It's HIPAA compatible. That's right. They can see themselves, exactly. 30% more. And that's the kind of level of improvement we see. Actually, it's as much as 60% in using this kind of micro communication instead of big fat stuff. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. I had actually thought that it was like, I don't want to do this procedure at this time, right? I have my cane. I'm fine. I can make it. Maybe I can't walk with my kids, but I still get to the store, right? And but then being able to reflect back and see how their life could be better in the future from taking this step, I think is really good. Well, and this is the trick to give them back timely, relevant information. Did you know that 63% of people who get into a wheelchair never get out, right? Or something like this, and kind of give them like the reason not to fall into that trap, right? And reflect to them like what's happened to other people. This is what people often will forget or miss or not think about. It's like, what are other people experiencing, right? We're so in our own heads and maybe talking to our family member or our doctor, but we don't know what, that million people, what happened to them, right? And that's an important bit of education to know that if you're going into this healthcare situation and it's a 95% chance of a good outcome, that gives you one level of comfort versus it's 50-50. That's a different level of comfort. And having them know that up front helps them to make the decision better. So what can you teach them in the moment that helps them step up? That's always one of the key things. And how can you query them to make sure they actually got it, right?
Change a little bit?
Of course.
So we started with this with a little bit of AI. We've talking a lot of AI in the last whatever. So probably all organizations are trying to figure out how to use AI within the organization.
Right.
And I don't mean like kind of an add-on skill per se, right?
In general. Who's using ChatGPT today?
Right. Okay. And so the ChatGPT is changing almost every day. It was being talked about how the prompts are
The questions.
as they go,
Right.
learning what better prompts could be, all these things.
That's right. You can buy a pack of 1,000 prompts now.
Show the excitement and discomfort with AI.
Right.
So, sort of bring it all back to this. Like, is there something you recommend that we could do, like, as leaders of an organization, to help bring the organization along on, like, we want to adopt these tools and keep you educated without scaring you?
Absolutely.
But bring you along.
Right. So, and it helps to acknowledge that it's scary, right? And start with, wow, we know this is kind of scary. And all of a sudden, the fear goes away, right? And you can kind of put the fear aside if you name it, and talk about what makes it scary. How do we unpack that? And then, okay, are we afraid that we learned FOBO this week, right? Fear of being outsourced, obsolete, right? So people trying to adopt AI are like, they're seeing robots that can do anything. They're already afraid, right? So you have to say, look, this is not about replacing our people. This is about making our people better, which is, at the end of the day, the most likely outcome for this AI wave that we're seeing. So start with the fear, and then flip to what could be in it for them, right? And this is where showing them examples of their peers, like, did you know the CFO of that other business is already using ChatGPT to figure out like what his private equity prospective investors are interested in, right? And just getting them in the cycle of querying. It's the last few years we've been Googling stuff. Now we're going to ChatGPT stuff. And we kind of have to do both. And neither one of them is really going to replace any of us, right? So if you can kind of show them, here's how it could help you. Yeah, it's scary, and here's all the scary things. You could lose your job, you could get your pay cut, you could, be taken over by robots. And there's all these fears. Well, and we have to kind of unpack them and say, that's not going to happen to us because of this. That's not going to happen. And you kind of, but until you identify what they're afraid of, you can't start knocking them off, right? And people are afraid of crazy stuff. They're funky, remember? So until you ask them, you don't know. I'm afraid my kid won't be able to get a job. Okay. Didn't even know you had a kid, right? So uncovering their fears is part of the challenge. And then being clear about why it's good for them or how it could be good for them. And doing it iteratively, right? It's like, we're not going to jump into this. Look at all these examples of people who screwed it up. We don't want to be on that list. So we're going to make small experiments. We're going to learn from others who've done it, who've spent a lot of money and figured out if it's good or bad, or how things work. Follow others, right? The social proof is because, wow, that path has been proven out by the pioneers, some of which really had a hard time. But now you know the way to go to deploy it that's relatively easy, relatively effective, because you learn from the group. Now, learning the group, how you define the group is important because who people are willing to learn from, it's like, every consultant will tell you, like, you got a problem, I can help you, right? But which consultant will you let help on your problem, right? Well, I have a special problem, and we're in a special industry, and I need a special person, and maybe only we can do it, right? And so people have beliefs that you need to uncover and manage as they move through their decision processes or their learning process. No, there are yeah. Well, they're all going to be a little bit customized, but you definitely have a lot of repeatable things. Like we actually built one program that was a 3-week program. It had probably 20 interactions. It was kind of a lot, but it was a strategic reorientation of the entire organization that they were working for. It was a university, and so they had hundreds of people in this conversation. 2 minutes at a time. And they did it over, it was 3 weeks. And at the end of 3 weeks, they came up with a really impressive and cohesive strategy. It was not ChatGPT. This organization just pivoted to something that's strong and fits them authentically. And it was such an impressive thing. And here was the crazy thing that really blew my mind. Not that like an entire organization could pivot their whole strategy in 3 weeks. Okay, that's blowing my mind right there. But the average amount of time that those participants spent in that activity was a total of 38 minutes. Okay? 38, you can't even get to a meeting started in 38 minutes. How did that happen, right? Normally a strategic reorientation, like I couldn't really understand it taking less than like 10 meetings, right? They got it done in 38 minutes, right? So it shows that you can get people moving through these thought processes together, sync them up, help them learn from each other, and make decisions and build confidence really quickly. The harder ones are the chronic ones. Diabetes, smoking, COPD machines, where the chance of you not having to do that is pretty small. You could, it's possible, right? And in fact, there was one client actually built a diabetes management program down in WVU. Actually got diabetics to improve their situation with these micro reminders. And so that was impressive to me, getting diabetics to lose weight. Yeah, and the people who put that together really knew what they were doing, right? These were ex-McKinsey experts who knew the McKinsey process and baked it into a 3-week dialogue, right? So you do have to know, you need a subject matter expert to design the dialogue to know what things to talk about. What's that? That's correct. Yeah, that's right. No, you watch it.
Well, yeah, you're watching it, so you're working on the subject matter experts and bring stuff in the first place. That subject matter experts
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. That's exactly right, and you can change in the moment. You can kind of pivot the conversation as you need to, based on how people are responding and things that you don't expect to come up, which happens often.
That's what I was asking. I mean, is the campaign fixed, or can you adjust it?
No, you totally can adjust it. I mean, if you adjust it and your subject matter expert isn't there to know that you're making a good adjustment, it could be dangerous, right? But as long as you're doing the iterative thing with your subject matter expert, it's like, hey, doc, here's what's going on with this patient. How's that look? Is he good or not, right? And what would you suggest next? And, okay, let's ask him that. Oh yeah, the responses. I mean, the responses are always unexpected. The truth is, right? People come up with all kinds of stuff that you really don't anticipate, and that's really the beauty and the benefit of diversity, right? And if you have real diversity, you're going to get a better suite of ideas to pick from and manage. And so this, part of it, part of the other advantage that you want to do is give people a chance to contribute kind of anonymously, where they feel safe. Now, sometimes people want to take credit, put their name on it, which is fine, but you don't have to, right? So you can throw in an idea the boss won't know who told him the emperor has no clothes, right? But guess what? That's on a list of issues of this organization, right? Wow, we don't have enough sales. We don't have enough people. The emperor has no clothes. It's like, wait, what was that one? I knew about the other two, but this one comes out of left field because somebody in the organization was thinking that way unexpectedly. More likely we have the context, so we know what their issue is, what steps we need to go through, and where we want them to end up. You can use a generic one like this just to brainstorm. This is a great way to get ideas at scale. How many people can you get to fill out a 2-minute survey? It's a lot more than how many you can get to show up at a meeting. So, especially if they know why, they're like, oh, this is where I get to give my idea to the boss. Okay, I'll put it in right here. But then you get to hear the reactions potentially too. That's the beauty of it. You want to reflect it back and say, well, the boss didn't say anything, but your peers liked or didn't like your idea, or had the similar idea, or had a slightly different one that might be better, or let's combine them. And that collaboration at scale is really one of the benefits. But it also means it doesn't have to be a lot of people. Sometimes scale is just across institutions. Getting a hospital and a patient and an outpatient place and an insurance company all to agree isn't necessarily that easy. So being able to have conversations across institutions where participants have substantially different perspectives really brings a lot of value to integrating that data together in 2 minutes.
At some point in like the strategy one, where you say, okay, what are your ideas about?
Yes, that's right. When it's diverse, what we were learning about divergent thinking and convergent thinking, right? So you can use it for both. Divergent thinking, give me your ideas. Then we go, that's meeting one. How are you feeling? And then the next one is...
then some expert takes those and summarizes that.
If you can consider a manager an expert, maybe.
The thing that says, okay, here's what we heard.
Yes, that's right. You don't need expertise to reflect back to people. You just need to do it. Maybe you want to curate it, but usually like an admin could do that. Just make it not sound stupid, But the gold is in the people who are doing the contributions. Those are the ones that, they put in their gold, and yeah, they talked a little bit long, but man, did they have a good point. So that's where you get this list of diverse things. Correct. And you it's again, it depends on the program. Some programs you're going to want to, like this one I had to go look at yesterday, right? Because I was like, oh, let me see all the stuff, and pull it out, put it on the slide, right? But some of them, especially the prepackaged ones, it's just about walking them through a walk that's well known, and there doesn't need to be another person there.
Or it's algorithm.
Yeah, it's fixed.
And then use that response back.
Algorithmically, exactly. We're doing on time. Okay. Well, it started as a really broad thing. In fact, I think the first client was actually Westinghouse Electric. They used it to train nuclear operators, the guys in the nuclear plants, because the way this thing works is, oh, you taught them something, or you think you taught them something, you can check, right? Hey, remember what we taught you yesterday? And if they didn't, you circle around and do it again, right? And that's the way you certify them these little tiny bits at a time. And they got way higher levels of training, and so Westinghouse was all about it until they went bankrupt. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So that one, but that one, it was programmed. There's not a lot of feedback there. It's like we teach you the thing, we assess there's quizzes, right? Correct.
And I imagine a lot of healthcare that's around, but maybe they eat something that it learns back, but it's scripted.
Yeah, totally scripted, exactly. Well, they also don't like to have to go edit stuff, right? Exactly, right? No human judgment in the system, which means you really want to be pretty narrow about what you're talking about. Let's see, what do I have at the end here? All right, so some things to think about for affective intelligence, right? You want to be visual, right? Half our brain is visual. Use your visuals. We talked about getting their input. We talked about teaching them stuff, right? Create that dialogue. Don't bore them. Keep it going over time. Leverage their motivations. It's like, oh, you wanted that, remember? Oh, yeah, okay. And another good one is kind of show them how they fit in, right? And if we go back to our slides, it's like, well, I was kind of excited. Oh, look, some other people were fearful. That's interesting, right? And so you show them how you fit in. It's something you can reflect back really easily. Oh, you said X last week. Well, according to 500 other people, here's the distribution of X and where you fit in. And people like that. We talked about relevance and why. So these are the key things to keep people engaged. All right, we did Bob's workshop. All right, so Bob, what does a medical device manufacturer have to believe to be confident enough to use your platform?
Their biggest fears are loss of control, disengagement, right? Somebody else is going to substitute their device. All the medical device manufacturers are fighting over the platform.
Right.
So they have to believe that A, this works, B, that it will not
Right. That it won't take their patient away.
right, or their doctor away. Right.
Put them out of business.
Right, or skim,
Or reduce their fees.
yeah, right.
You have to increase their fees. Oh, I'm doing one more thing, one more fee.
Or turn around and bookgate, right? You want that big to get to that doc, well, that's going to last you time.
Right, yeah, right.
The EPA has regulations around this. They're not considered medical devices. They're considered health applications.
Health data application.
Health applications. I mean, there is a certain form, right? It can't produce its own results and that sort of thing. But it's just or deliver, incorrect information. Like, oh, well, if you don't use this, then you will get a free, small, expensive trip to Hawaii.
Right. Right. You need them to click the end user license agreement. Yeah, in fact, the way I look at it is the FDA has a set of stuff. You have to know this stuff about your device, right? It's a big book of stuff, right? Well, we can probably break that stuff down into a prioritized list of things that most medical device manufacturers fail or data analytics companies fail. So let's start with the hard stuff and I'm going to ask you a question like, are you going to kill anyone? Right? I'm going to start right there, right? No? Okay. How do you know? How do you know, right? Who have you tried to kill? No. So, it's actually I would see the regulators as saying, you have to use this program, answer these 100 questions, get this score, and then you'll be allowed in, right? And it will go and assess you on all those dimensions in this highly honest, really short, like, why is this important? Like, we have this regulation because it saves lives. We don't want you to kill somebody, dude. You want to kill somebody? No. Okay, here, do this, right? That's enrollment, right?
That might be, what you're describing sounds more like quality system process training inside.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good use case for it.
Yeah, don't forget that this is important, but the quality system is good.
That's right. Well, and you can do things like field telemetry. The good thing about this is you can do telemetry to anybody who has a phone, right? You don't need a special device or anything. You can just text them this thing or send them an email and get a response. So it's really easy to integrate. All right, last question. Good stuff. Thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate it.